So today I'm going to show you how to make my hybrid rose. My hybrid rose is set on a wooden stem, and it's basically an English rose with alternate petals, book page petals and coloured paper petals, and I usually add 2 wired leaves as well. You can make this rose using any book that you like, and you can also use any different coloured paper for the leaves and for the petals. This is lovely to give as a gift for Mother's Day, for birthdays, first anniversary, or just as a thank you. This looks lovely when presented in a gift cone or a gift sleeve, and I'll pop the links for those in the video description if you wish to make those as well. And they don't take too long to make, but I do tend to make them over 2 days because I like to allow the petals to fully dry in place. It's a very sturdy rose. The petals do move a little bit, but you know, in general, you can squish it around a little bit. It's a lot more sturdy than you'd imagine, that's for sure. So to make this rose, first off you'll need to download my standard template. It's a free download, and if you print it off at 100%, it will be exactly the right size. I'll put the link in the video description for you so that you can download this, and you'll need petal template number 1 and leaf template number 1. If you don't have a printer, I will also put a link in the video description to show you how to draw these 2 up. And all you'll need for that is a ruler and a pencil and some old card. In addition, you will need to have your old book and a sheet of A4 coloured paper for the coloured petals. Now for the hybrid rose, I would normally use either 120 GSM or 160 GSM paper. If you are using a thicker paper than that, you may find that you need to use a glue gun towards the end of the rose assembly, because the thicker paper makes it harder to add to the rose. You'll also need a small amount of coloured paper for the leaves. You can pick any colour that you like for making this rose, for the leaves and for the petals, but you just need enough so that you can cut 4 leaves as your template. Now, full instructions for making the leaves, I'll pop a link in the video description. You need to make up 2 leaves on wire, like so. I'm not going to show you how to do this because I end up repeating myself in every tutorial. So we've got 1 video for the leaves, and that's part 4 of the bouquet toolkit. For the rest of the equipment, glue-wise, wallpaper paste, that's standard for me, and the link for mixing that up is also in the video description. And I'll also use some PVA craft glue and the high tack glue I use on the leaves, and that will all be detailed on that part of the tutorial. And you'll also need some regular white sewing thread. This is just a polyester sewing thread, and it's perfectly adequate for the job. Lastly, well, most significantly, you'll need a wooden stick. Now I like to use these bamboo kebab sticks. You can chop the pointed end off if you prefer, and that will give you a finished rose length of about 28 to 30 centimetres. And lastly, you'll need some florist tape. These come in various different colours, and I prefer to use the dark green. So to make the hybrid rose, we need to cut some book page petals and some coloured paper petals. I'm going to tear 3 pages from the book. And if you hold the book firmly at the top and pull all the pages out together, they'll usually come out nicely. And take your 3 pages all together and fold them in half. Did I forget to mention that we need some scissors? Sorry. Right, so we'll take our template and we're just going to simply cut around and each cut here will give us 6 petals. So we only need to cut twice. So we've got 12 petals there, and it's always good to have a couple spare, so that's why I'm happy to have a couple spare. So now we want to cut the coloured paper petals, and to do this I'll just line the template up, fold the paper so the template fits nicely on the page. And again, we'll just cut around the petal template. Don't forget to snip the bit at the bottom where the fold is. So once we've got our book page petals and our coloured paper petals, what we want to do is lay 3 out at the top, 2 in the middle and 3 out on the bottom. And then we'll have 3 at the top. So once we've got our coloured paper petals and our book page petals all cut, we need to lay them out in 3 rows of 6, alternating book page petals and coloured paper petals. Once this is done, what we need to do is with the book page petals, we will take our wooden stick and we're going to hold it diagonally along the petal and just roll it around the stick like so, and we're rolling it so it's about halfway down the left hand side of the petal. Then just release the stick, place back down, and we want to do this on the left hand side for all of the book page petals. Now we're going to repeat the process with the coloured paper petals, but on the right hand side. So all of our petals now have curls in them, and on the bottom row what we're going to do is just flip the first 4 petals over. So the first 4 petals have got their curls facing upwards, and all of the rest of them have the curls still facing downwards. Now, as with most of my flowers, what we're going to do is pop a bit of wallpaper paste on each of the petals in front of us. The wallpaper paste forms a really strong bond between the petals. So the first petal we're going to use is from the spares pile, and as with most of my roses we're going to create a little cone shape, and what I like to do is hold it with my finger and my thumb in the center and then roll over, curl it in, and we get a little cone. Inside the cone we'll put a blob of wallpaper paste. We'll insert the wooden stem, give it a squeeze, and then using your thread we'll just bind that onto the stem. So we just wrap the thread around the petal. Keep the thread really tight and bring it all the way down until the whole of the petal has been bound and we're touching the wooden stem. With the curl of the petal facing upwards, we'll take the first petal from the bottom row and we'll line it up directly behind. And we're going to line it up with the bottom here and just squeeze it around and then use the thread to hold in place. 2 or 3 turns of the thread will be plenty. And then the next petal we're going to place directly opposite. We're going to close that gap, and the same process, squeeze it at the bottom and wind the thread 2 or 3 times. For the next petal and all of the other petals, we will take the middle of the new petal and align it at the bottom here with the petal that's already on the stem. So we're going to align the middle of the new petal with the very edge of the previous petal on the stem. Twist a couple of times and then just keep that process going, the middle of the new petal with the very edge of the previous petal. As you add more and more petals, the rose will start to get a bit more fuller at the base here. But just keep following that process. When you've added the last petal, wind the thread a few more times and then bring it down the stem about 2 or 3 centimeters before snipping off the thread and just wiping a good amount of wallpaper paste over that thread, and that will hold it all in place. And then you can tease out the petals a little bit if you need to. Bring them up if you need to as well. Now set that aside to dry, and I'll normally leave them to dry overnight, but if you're in a particularly warm climate then it'll take about an hour or so to dry. But yeah, and we'll finish it off tomorrow. So we're all completely dry and all of the thread and the petals are very secure on the bottom of the rose here. So all we need to do now is to add the leaves that you would have prepared earlier using the other tutorial, and we just need to add the florist tape to the stem. This is very simply done. You just hold the florist tape over the end, fold it down and twist it around on itself. And then you can twirl it all the way up the stem. When you get to about 2 or 3 centimeters from the top, snip off a length of about 10 centimeters and then carry on rolling it up. At this point I do like to put some PVA glue all around the bunchy bit and along the florist tape. I need to fill up my glue. This just helps to secure the florist tape in place so that it won't unravel. The florist tape is a little bit tacky, but not so wonderful that it will always hold itself in place. Then just keep rolling the end of the florist tape around the underside of the rose so that it covers all of the bunchy bit, like so. Then we'll take our leaves and we'll push them away from us, like so. Hold them up against the stem. Check that they're pointing out just nicely. That's a little bit too far. You just want them to poke out like so. So once you've aligned your leaves up with the stem, you can add a little bit of extra glue. And then use your florist tape just to bind the leaves in place. Snip it off. And add a little bit of extra glue. And once that glue's dried, it's ready for giving. So thank you for watching this tutorial. Don't forget to save it to your watch later or give it a go later playlist so that you can easily find it and come back and make it when you need to. And yeah, do give me a thumbs up if you've made it this far, and I hope to catch up with you again soon.